Let you do your little intro and all that happy shit.
Well, I don't have anything planned for the intro. Normally, I'll just...
Welcome to... You have to do the whole big, this is like the circle is now complete. Whenever,
yes. All the stars have aligned.
All the stars have aligned, finally. All those years of me scaring that shit out of you kids.
Oh, man, that's awesome. That's what's funny. That's what's funny, though, is the one thing that always got me was if you hadn't done the haunted houses where I always had to come over and watch, would I have, in turn, wanted to do that myself, start working at the haunted trail, all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But, yeah. Anyway, so, because nobody even knows who I'm talking to right now, but special guest, Sean Chevalier.
Welcome to Primetime, bitch.
Bingo. Welcome to the very first episode of Slashcast. I'm your host, Jim Backus. And, it's only fitting that I would have Sean as my first guest, because...
It's kind of nice. Two neighborhood kids.
Yeah. I mean, he's definitely my source of getting into the horror genre, and I don't know if I would be like I am today if it weren't for you.
That's only because I chased you guys on Halloween with a chainsaw down the street.
That's right. I used to come over.
You worked for your candy.
I used to come over and watch and dress up in my Jason or Michael Myers costume, and you and your buddies would always be, so much bigger than me at that point, and I was like, oh, this is so cool. And that's what I wanted to do.
Well, I'm glad
now I have Michael Myers on my arm.
That's right. I'm glad I corrupted at least one youth of from the neighborhood. So what are we getting into, Freddie? Nightmare on Elm Street, probably the guy who got me into loving horror movies and stuff like that. But probably the movie that actually started my interest in special effects. Not enough to try to get into it, but just researching it and doing stuff, trying to make everything scarier for kids and stuff for Halloween. But
now, the amount of blood used in that movie is talked about a lot.
Yeah, and I'll guarantee you.
Before that movie, which movie would you think comparatively had the same amount of blood or more, if any?
I'm trying. Well, that's kind of hard to say. I mean, my God, I don't even know. I mean, I'm trying to think about the amount of blood that they use. I know they had to use over 500 gallons in Elm Street. And probably 100 gallons of that was probably Glenn's death scene. I mean, you film the room upside down and you pour buckets upon buckets out of a hole in a bed. But I don't know. I mean, you go back and you take a look at, Friday the 13th and stuff like that. I mean, there was blood, but it wasn't pumped and, gushing and, stuff like... I mean, I have no idea. Taking a guess, I'd probably say...
How many gallons you say?
I'd say over 500.
Yeah. You went on IMDb, too?
Yeah, I
did. Thank you, IMDb. Shout out.
Well, yeah. It was one of those things. Because years ago, I wanted to know how many,
Yep. That's funny.
It's funny, Depp gets pulled down into the bed and he's screaming and yelling. All of a sudden, just fountains and the fountain of old geezer or whatever the hell it's called.
That's funny too, because one of the scenes when it cuts, you can see it hitting the ceiling and it's like not as much hitting the ceiling.
Yeah,
it's like
really watered down.
Yeah,
it looked so good erupting out of there, and then I
would say that scene, even people who maybe have never even seen the movie full way through, have probably seen that scene somewhere. All the blood coming out of the bed. That's
definitely
iconic, definitely.
Yeah. I just, the thing that cracks me up is you have that whole thing, the blood erupting out of the bed, hitting the ceiling. You see the father come in. He's terrified. The cops and everything coming in. The blood somehow magically is dripping down through the second floor into the first floor. So they got buckets underneath there. I'm like, okay, so when did Glenn's blood stop defying gravity?
I guess at some point it would have to come back down.
I guess so.
I don't know if it would seep all the way through the wood and concrete of the house. It's structural integrity of that house.
Like a sponge.
So I don't know if anybody's ever talked about this movie before, but we might be breaking ground here. But for anybody who's never seen the movie, it's about that's one thing I wanted to ask you about. The switch between being a child molester to a child murderer. The original script called for him to be a child molester, which they brought back in the remake. But in the original, we're not talking about that. But
Jackie Earle Haley can kiss my ass.
But they switched him to being just a child murderer in this movie. Which one do you think holds more shock factor? You know what?
They're both equally disgusting. Mm-hmm. I mean, okay, the only thing that would have been more gruesome was if they combined the both of them. I mean, you molested him first and then murdered him. I mean, you think about it, a murderer, I mean, child murderer would just be him taking them and just, killing them. I mean, it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other to me. I mean,
I looked at it with, I don't even think they had to tell us, but I think just the thought of people having, when he knows that he's doing something to children.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Just saying, just showing the newspaper articles, child disappears, and showing him in his basement shining his blades and everything.
Right.
But not saying child rapist, I don't know. I think like what Halloween did so much better than most is leave it up to us to create the horror in our own heads. Which is, he didn't put the gore out there, didn't put everything in. He didn't put every detail on the screen. It was just you got to make up your own thoughts.
Sure. Sure.
That's what I like.
And to be honest with you, that really never even played into after seeing the first one. Well, I saw the second movie first because when Elm Street, the original one came out, was 1984, and I was 12. Remember seeing the, excuse me, I remember seeing the, the original trailers on TV and going, wow, okay, that's kind of, something new. Not being big into the horror just yet, but starting to get into it. Even being too young for Friday the 13th. And extremely young whenever, the original Chainsaw Massacre came out.
Were you even born yet? 74? Where were you born?
I was 2. Yeah, Leatherface came out when I was 2.
Okay.
Thanks a lot for telling me.
Sorry about that. Go ahead.
Yeah, I feel old now. No, anyway. But, thinking about the whole idea and then, Fangoria magazine out there and probably right around the time whenever I started, reading about Freddy Krueger. Oh, you got your slasher movies, Jason. He walked around in the woods with a hockey mask and he killed teenagers that had sex. Okay. Mm-hmm. He had a sharp implement with him at all times. But you could run. You could hide, possibly. If you were the pure virgin who didn't have sex and did everything, you were the one that usually tied the rock around his neck or hit him with a garbage can or something or whatever and, defeated the bad guy until...
All the tropes we know today came from them movies.
Exactly. Yeah. Freddy could get you wake or sleep. And that intrigued me. And for the time, and even today, we can talk about it, but it was a fresh idea where I think Hollywood today, there's nothing new anymore. And I understand it's hard to make new ideas, but but it was something fresh. I mean, you wake up and okay, so this guy really can't get you whenever you're awake. So you try to stay awake, and ultimately you're going to fall asleep, and then you're pretty much dead.
Yeah, and there's a lot of stories about how Wes Craven came up with the idea.
Yep.
And it says right here it came from an article he had read in the Los Angeles Times saying Asian refugees dying among...
Asian death syndrome.
Horrific nightmares.
Yep.
A lot of people keep saying, I think it came from him seeing a homeless dude on the street or something but that became more about who Freddy was going to be. Not
there's
story.
Also the childhood bully. I think is where I think the name came from. I'm not sure if he got the whole name, but at least the first name.
That too. Yeah.
And even getting back to that whole thing with being an original idea. A New Line Cinema / what was it? Smart Egg, I believe, was Smart Egg Productions or New Line Cinema, whatever. This movie, A Nightmare on Elm Street, was what saved, New Line Cinema. What was it, like 1.8, 1.6 million to make over 30 days, and like the first week, 2 weeks, it made all that back. So they called it the,
house that Freddie built.
Yeah, the house that Freddie built.
Yeah, shot in 30 days.
Which is incredible. I mean, the productions are now, but I mean, well, what else today would have been shot in 30? I know they've shot,
and at only $1.8 million. Actors today ask for that. One actor in the movie gets that.
That's what I want to work for this week. Thank you very much. I mean, well, Devil's Rejects. I mean, well, you take a look at Zombie. We're talking like the old 60s, 70s kind of, he had I mean, he filmed Devil's Rejects in 30 days, but 1983, we'll say, maybe a year for shooting and stuff like that. And $1.8 million in 84 money. What would that be today? I mean,
you can ask Google.
I'm not going to ask Google.
You can ask Google that question.
But, well, you know what? Now, let me ask you this. Whenever after you were being terrified with me, what drew you into Krueger? I mean, growing up, what we did, we would go down to the video store, and you would see the massive wall of horror movies. And
shout out to Video Force.
Shout out to Video Force. Thank you very much. Thank you, Donnie. But you would take a look at that whole wall. I mean, me and the guys that I hung out with, shout out to Brian Boswell and those guys, Richie Troy and all you good fellows that we hung out and did all kinds of stupid stuff at Brian's mom's place.
Monaca alum.
Yeah, Monaca alum. If Mrs. Boswell, who worked the Giant Eagle in Center Township, couldn't rent movies for us, we would go down there and we would basically pick a horror movie by how the cover looked.
Yep.
The worse it was, I mean, how do you think we got it? Well, we're not going to get into Evil Dead or whatever. Well, Evil Dead 2 later.
Yes.
Because we know that little bit of trivia. But what drew you into getting into this? I mean, we know we're talking about Freddy in the very first Elm Street, but I know your love of Michael Myers, and that's another one we need to talk about it at a later time. But
eventually,
what got you into it?
I don't know. I know Freddy was always funny to me, and I love that he talked, and I always loved Michael first, and then, it was like an order. I don't know why, but I always watch Halloweens because they were always the more TV-friendly movies back. They were always on TV more.
Yeah, you really didn't see much.
And
easy to edit, I guess, if you will.
Yeah, pretty much. And Freddy was more mainstream. He was always, when you started doing the MTV stuff, it was right around early 90s,
When they made him a wise ass in number 3, I think that's where my love for him came in.
Dream Warriors, man.
Dream Warriors was,
That's probably second best of the series, I would say, probably.
That's still my number 1.
Yeah.
It's just the opposite of the the original Star Wars trilogies. It's 3, 1, 2 instead of Empire, Star Wars, and shit.
Do you agree with killing Nancy off?
Now
I do want this to be an on-running series with me and Sean here, which I hope does happen.
Oh, absolutely.
So I don't want to get too much into the sequels, but that's just one question that just came to mind.
I was actually shocked. Like I said, let's go back. The first, after we started renting movies, the first Elm Street movie that I saw was Freddy's Revenge, number 2, because, like I said, I was too young to see the first one. Well, after we saw that one, we rented the first one, and then the third one came out on VHS. So it was a surprise whenever they brought Nancy back, and I like the way they brought her back.
Yeah,
I wish they would have kept her. I really liked the character of Nancy. She was, one of the few survivors. I guess you could call it a survivor, but
I think she could easily be where like Jamie Lee Curtis is today, if the character would have stayed.
Well, yeah, I agree with that.
Could have always made her the Ahab to Freddy, trying to catch his white whale.
Yeah.
Throughout time, she could always come back at a certain time. I think killing a character off just completes like, okay, we can't do anything else now.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's gonna, if you don't.
Then comes rewriting and all that kind of stuff.
Well, if you don't kill off a character somewhere, I mean, there has to be a shock value. But
I think it was too soon.
I think it was too soon as well. But then again, if you keep a character and it gets to be like the whole, remember the G.I. Joe cartoon where Cobra was always getting defeated by G.I. Joe, and it was always the good guy defeating the bad guy. Not saying it gets old. I mean, it would be a nice thing to see her maybe
like I said,
come back again.
Survive it, but not have to be in the movies where you know that her character is available.
Yeah, like maybe in 4 or 5, hey, you know what, we heard about this person.
Yeah. But we also know
Nancy's, curled up in a rubber room somewhere.
Exactly.
Oh, you got to do this. And I don't want to talk about Freddy anymore. And then, he starts haunting her again, and she comes out as the ultimate dream knowledge person, whatever you want to call her.
And if you watch any of the documentaries, they say about how the sequels turned out to be everybody's just an own idea. Like every movie was somebody else's idea. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's no real, they weren't worried about continuity or anything. And there isn't much with him. It's once you told his backstory, I was like, okay, he could still, that's just him.
Basically, and they could have done, the original idea of Freddy was, I think Wes Craven said something along, and I'm trying to remember this superhero, and I might be misremembering him, but they wanted Freddy to be like Plastic Man. And if I can remember what Plastic Man was from the old cartoons in the 80s, he was the guy that had the red and yellow suit on.
I'm going to throw a picture of Plastic Man up here.
Okay. But that's what Craven wanted Freddy's sweater to look like. It was red and yellow striped. Mm-hmm. So Freddy, he was in the dream world, and Freddy could control your dreams or whatever. He could turn into whatever he wanted to. Hey, bam, I'm a boat with a hole in it, and you're drowning or what. But the whole thing with the yellow and red was going to be like an homage to Plastic Man. I guess he had a red leotard and a yellow belt or something. But somewhere down the line, Craven read about the two colors that is hardest for the eyes to either comprehend or read together was red and green. That gave birth to Freddy's sweater.
Yep.
So, it was, like I said, that whole thing of him being able to do whatever he wants to, and, as long as he's in the dream world, that it was just a whole new concept to me. And I thought it was cool.
You want to watch a trailer?
Hell yeah, I want to watch it. Sure.
Let's watch a trailer. Maybe it'll refresh my memory and jog some new details. All right.
Thank God I'm 47. It's rated R. Oh. Why does this bring back... The
kids of Elm Street don't know it yet, but something is coming to get them.
Plus, when you watch the first part of the movie, you think Tina's going to be the star. And then spoken the most.
Absolutely.
And then,
What did that, Lieutenant?
It's not.
I don't know.
Nancy.
She's a coroner.
Nancy was the pure virgin.
Puking since he saw her.
You're gonna kill me for sure.
Did you do it?
There was somebody else there.
He was locked in a room with a girl who went in alive and came out in a rubber bag.
I like this.
That never made it.
Plus, no stripes on the sleeves.
Absolutely. Yep. Only movie.
Yep.
There's something wrong with you. You're imagining things.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Do you believe in the boogeyman?
No.
Whatever you do, don't.
I read somewhere that Elm Street, right there, that scene where he comes through, that's the very first instance that they ever used breakaway glass of some sort. I might be wrong, but I swear I saw that somewhere, or read it somewhere. Doesn't she have that?
Yeah, I think so. The whole mom thing just was weird, right?
That was
so weird.
It was weird, so bad too. I mean,
Director of The Hills Have Eyes and Last House on the Left. A new masterpiece in fantasy terror. Nightmare on Elm Street.
There you go, a little piece of trivia. Who was the lady who played Nancy's teacher?
Lynn Shay.
Magda.
Yeah.
All the beautiful actress that cracks me up on all those damn the Dumb and Dumber style movies, and I mean, there's something about Mary and all that. That was Robert Shea's wife or ex-wife?
Sister.
Yep. Oh, okay.
Yep.
I didn't know sister.
Yep. That's why she's in all this stuff.
Yeah. Wow, does that bring back memories?
Conjuring series or Insidious series? I mean,
that's true.
Lynn Shay.
like I said, watching that and having not see. Is it his sister? Not seeing that trailer from God knows how long. The what got me and intrigued me the most as a kid, but still scared me, was that scene with the glove coming up out of the tub and going back down. And when I first saw that, that was incredible. And what a great, well, let's see, what the hell, I might as well drop it. What a great mind fuck it was. Whenever Nancy got pulled down, and the editing on that with just that vast tank of water that, was supposedly her falling asleep, dreaming, and being pulled underneath. That it was cool. It was just, like I said, it was all original. It wasn't, hey, lumbering guy walking through woods, slash, stab, I'm going to break you, put you in the tree, stuff an arrow in your eye. It was imaginative. And throughout all the series, it just got more imaginative. And whoever Freddy was going after, that's what he kind of used against them. I mean, girls that were afraid of were afraid of insects. Oh my God, she's lifting weights, and we got cockroach arms.
Which is what part 3 was pretty much with. Yeah, putting all the kids' fears and stuff.
That was kind of. But I mean, when you get down to it, Elm Street was probably. It's what set the standard for horror movies. And I really think so today as well. I mean, come on. I mean, how many people have played Jason? How many people have played Michael? And I'm not taking anything away from anybody playing Michael and Jason and even Leatherface, but there's only been 2 people to play Krueger, and only one of them knows how to play him right.
Well, that's the thing, is we're never going to see him as anybody but Robert Englund. Because that's who our minds go to.
Absolutely.
We don't want to see him as
there's
anybody else.
2 people you think of, or two characters you think of when you hear Robert Englund. You got Freddy Krueger and Willie the Lizard from V. Okay. You don't think of Robert Englund in what was it, 976 Evil, or or whatever. I mean, that's the man's made a career of playing Krueger, and that's who we want to see. Yeah, that's what killed me about the remake. I just couldn't. I couldn't see anybody else playing him because, I mean, let's face it. You take a big burly guy, and you throw a hockey mask on him and a bunch of work clothes. Anybody can lumber around, but Freddy had that, the whole attitude. Now, like I said, later on in the series, he got the smart, wisecracking attitude and being a wise ass, and that was all Englund, and there was nobody else that could do it. And I think, I agree. Once again, that's what makes Freddy Freddy, and why I think he set the bars for it.
What's funny is I woke up today to an article saying about Elijah Wood wanting to take over the franchise of Nightmare on Elm Street.
Jesus Christ.
And
Frodo.
It's on bloodydisgusting.com. He basically,
you're kidding me.
Nope. He basically just said during an interview that having an opportunity to get a hold of the classic franchise is something pretty exciting. Not verbatim, but he said we've done our due diligence to find out about the rights. He said it's already been done. You can't do an origin story again.
Hollywood will prove him wrong.
That's already been done twice. You almost have to let Freddy go and move into a different direction. I think you bring Freddy along for the ride initially, but you have to go somewhere else with it because it's such a well-trodden ground.
True.
And he does want Robert Englund to come back if he did.
What's he going to let Robert... Is Robert Englund going to play Freddy's dad?
It says, I think Englund has to be in it. I think you have to honor that series to honor that character. To honor Wes Craven. So he doesn't say as Freddy, he just says to bring Englund into the movie. Which I think there's a lot of possibilities to have Englund in the movie as another character if you want to, which would be fine.
Absolutely.
Just ignoring him.
I'll give Elijah Wood that. I'll give him kudos for wanting to bring Englund in. That shows a lot of respect.
What I love seeing is all these mainstream media guys getting into horror. It's telling you that horror's come. It's where it's supposed to be, right?
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, it's about time because I don't know about you. I don't know the last time you were actually watching television and seeing literally watching TV, not like YouTube or anything, but, like watching a trailer for a movie and getting pumped up. I don't care if it was horror, if it was comedy. It doesn't happen anymore. And it's almost sad because, like, back in the 80s, it was like, ooh, I can remember Elm Street 3 or Elm Street 4. And I'm like, oh, what are you seeing us? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
You don't get it. How many times can you see teenagers get killed? Well, I can watch it a lot because, there has to be imagination. I said, and especially with, Krueger, depending on what somebody is and what they're dreaming and this and that. I mean, he can go in and he screwed with Jason. Mm-hmm. I mean, let's face it. He was a number one bad list 80s slasher for me.
Even when he came into the real world, he was still Freddy.
Yeah, exactly. That was something I always kind of had a little bit of I don't want to say. I had a little bit of dislike whenever Nancy when she learned about pulling him out and she pulled the hat out. I thought it was maybe a titch far-fetched. Mm-hmm. But once again, it is a movie.
Yeah.
But whenever she pulled Freddy out and he, threw away all the rose trellis and whatever and all that, and he went into her trap inside her house. They made him almost look a little bit weak, and what I think they did was a good job because he wasn't in his dream world where he had power and everything like that. They didn't make him look too weak,
but you had to give the heroine power.
You had to, you had definitely had, and I think that's they did a good job with that. He messed with everybody so much. Now,
we know Heather Langenkamp got the role of Nancy.
Right.
Demi Moore?
No, I couldn't see her as...
Courtney Cox?
Oh, God.
Jennifer Grey?
Uh-huh.
Tracy Gold?
Tracy Gold?
Yep.
We're talking like...
She was
the Growing Pains or whatever.
Tracy Gold.
Oh my, no.
She was up for the role. All of them were up for the role of Nancy.
Well, the thing is, we're basing it on what we know them as now.
Exactly.
That's like, who was up for the role for Freddy? I mean, if it was some no name and it wasn't Robert Englund, would we see it?
Here's funny.
No.
According to Wes Craven, Robert Englund wasn't the first choice to play Freddy. Craven had initially wanted a stuntman to play the part, but upon testing several stuntmen, he realized that he needed an actor. Well, so he might not even have got the role, period.
Yeah, exactly.
So who knows?
Yeah. Well, I don't want to say, oh God. It would have been a different delivery. Like if Courtney Cox played Nancy.
Yeah.
It would have definitely been different. I'm trying to think back that Courtney Cox in like Masters of the Universe was just god awful, and
Bruce Springsteen video too.
Well, that's where she got her start. Yeah. Wait a minute, was Courtney? Yeah, Courtney Cox was in Masters of the Universe. I think she was.
Was she?
I only saw it once, and it was with DJ Stone.
Shout out.
What?
Shout out DJ Stone.
Shout out DJ Stone. Love you, little brother. He was the one that I used to love. To going back to the whole original, hell that I put these kids through whenever they come for candy on Halloween. DJ was the one that I loved every year. Didn't matter what it was. He heard the chainsaw buzzing, he jumped.
Yeah.
And I mean,
see, that was the difference. I smiled and wanted it. Mm-hmm. I'm like, no, I want to be part of this.
After the second year, whenever you just kind of walk by, I went, oh, he's one of us, so we'll just leave him alone. We'll go after the other little piggies.
He's, he's okay.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. So, all in all, the movie itself, where would you rank it as far as the horror elite?
Elite?
Just this installment. Say from Massacre up for slashers.
From Chainsaw Massacre up?
Yeah.
You know what? Like I said, I'm biased. I love Freddy. Freddy's the whole reason why, like I said, he's what drew me into the genre. I mean, Elm Street, the storyline and from my point of view, the originality of it, guy getting you in your dreams and not out in the real. It's in my top 2. It really is.
Halloween, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street.
Elm Street,
Massacre.
Halloween, Friday, Texas Chainsaw. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, well, we're not going to talk about Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's just some fat dude wearing somebody's face running around going, oh, yeah!
So because he's not the supernatural like all the other killers kind of are, does he belong in that upper list of
That's why
killers?
he's number 4.
But do you think he deserves what he gets?
Actually,
Or is he overrated? Leatherface, we're talking about.
Oh, you know what? Me and you could do a whole different.
Oh, we will.
Oh, my
There'll be a massacre episode.
Well, I mean, okay, so we've got. If you really want to get to it, you've got of the '80s horror slashers. You got Freddy and Jason. I mean, not for a while with Jason until like basically number 6, whenever he became the undead walking with the
yeah.
So
Lightning
we could put Freddy and Jason as supernatural, and Michael and Leatherface in the human category. Then again, Michael could also.
I don't consider Michael. I don't consider Michael human after the first one. Dude got shot too many times. I think that's whenever his spiritual part came out.
But see, we don't find out about that for. Why we talk about Michael Myers?
We always got.
I know. We don't find out about Michael until the guy with the tattoo in the wrist and all that.
But there's
stuff.
also one difference is there is no question about Freddy being supernatural.
Absolutely,
that's what separates him from everybody else. There is no
true.
Question.
That is true. So
we know for a fact this dude is a dream demon.
Yeah, well, that is true. Yeah, because he's coming at you.
Yes.
Yeah. So I guess we could actually say Freddy is supernatural, and
everybody else
is 2 or lower.
At least until a lot of their sequels came out to where
And that's why I put Jason second, because like I said,
his kill count just keeps him at second.
His kill count definitely. Yeah, his kill count, because weed whacker whacking up against a tree with a sleeping bag. It didn't make a difference. Punching your head off in New York City on top of a building, but you don't find out till later. Like I said, Jarvis goes, stabs him with the fence post. It starts raining. Lightning hits. Hey, guess what? We just jump started Jason, and this shit all starts over again.
Welcome back, Cotter.
Yeah.
His buddy was
Horace, aka Horseshack, yes, which was funny as hell.
Yeah.
But I mean, the shout outs and stuff like I said, even with Raimi. I mean, the Evil. I first saw Evil Dead, and I really liked the Evil Dead because the storyline was great and everything, but the sound and the editing and the camera angles it was nice that Sam Raimi and Evil Dead 2 paid homage to. Is that how you say that word? Homage?
Homage, yes.
Not homage?
Not homage,
anyway.
No. I would say
pay
homage
to Wes Craven with the glove hanging in the shed, because
Evil Dead 2,
the tree rape scene was playing in Elm Street. So that's kind of sort of how that went. I mean, Evil Dead was another whole.
One of the granddaddy homage movies to me is Behind the Mask, story of Leslie Vernon.
Yeah,
literally throughout the entire movie is Easter eggs of other people, and they talk about all the other killers being real people.
Yep.
So that's why I love that movie so much. And I got to meet him, the actor, Scott Wilson, rest in peace. Met him at Steel City Con a couple years back.
Yeah.
And then, the actors from Leslie Vernon are going to be. They were at Rock Pop and Horror last year, and I think they're coming back this year.
Oh,
too.
nice.
The one in Gettysburg I was talking to you about last year.
Nice. But the other thing I really liked, like I said, with Elm Street. I mean, like I said, you got a guy with a chainsaw, or you got the guy with the penchant for large kitchen knives or the machete. The glove. I mean, what a freaking weapon. Why did I say freaking? What a fucking weapon. I mean, just an extension. The way Freddy stood, the right hand was dropped, and I would imagine it's because of the weight of the glove or whatever, but the right hand was dropped down. He almost looked like a gunslinger.
Mm-hmm. Which was because it was so heavy.
Yeah. Sitting down like this almost looked like, a scarred Clint Eastwood.
Mm-hmm.
Just sitting there and ready to go. I mean, watching that whole scene at the beginning of the beginning credits, you know, you see the feet shuffle in, pick up the bag, and he starts making it.
Yeah.
You know, and which was cool the first time I saw him. Like, oh, okay, so we get to see what's going on, this and that. But what questions me is, when was he making that? Was that whenever, before everything? After? He had to have that glove.
I think he took the glove with him when he died.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So we saw kind of like the precursor of what's going on whenever before he was burned alive and the vigilante justice took place.
Yes.
But I mean, the glove was such a neat, and the way, I mean, just a neat way of doing it. I mean, just not one big hack and blade. You got 4 of them. He could poke your eyes out. He could slash you twice, 3 times, gut you. I mean, it was, you know, once again, very unique, very, very, very
personal,
extremely personal.
Yeah.
But just, you know, it wasn't a beautiful, like, you couldn't go buy a Freddy glove. I mean, it was just so nasty looking.
Yeah.
I mean, soldered and hammered together and just a nasty old work glove. And it was just, it was...
I do get a chance to wear one, and it is pretty cool to wear.
I owned a replica, and I'm going to tell you right now, you put it on, you're like, oh, boy.
This is cool.
You don't want to go around. I would love to get one. Just have the pointer finger sharpened and just like dress as Freddy for like Halloween out there carving pumpkins while the kids come up and just, you know, poke the eye out and flip it out in the yard.
I was scaring him this year. It was fun. It's fun. That's another thing too, is I can dress up as him today, 36 years later.
Absolutely.
And people are still scared.
Absolutely. Yeah, the thing is, you know, it doesn't make a difference. And what the funny thing was is, years ago I got a red and green sweater as a joke for the ugly sweater contest for Christmas. Everybody's like, "Oh, look, it's red and green. You think you're Freddy Krueger?" And it's December, the middle of December, and yes, it's just that iconic colors.
Even or anybody Christmas colors,
absolutely Christmas colors. I mean, you know, but you see red and green on a sweater, you automatically think of Krueger, and that's what he's put into our minds. I mean, our generation. You see anything red and green, are we dreaming? Yeah. You know, and that was another thing that, you know, later on down the line, whenever you would try to figure out when they fell asleep, when they woke, something always had to be, always something that was something red and green.
Always a color.
You knew the person was dreaming, or they slipped
something off in the camp.
And you knew the shit was about to get real.
Is there anything else you want to touch on with this one?
I don't know.
We covered it. I mean, really, it just comes down to the movie itself. I mean, like I said, I mean, you think it's a top for you personally, but as far as, do you think it stands as top as far as the first installments of any slasher?
Well, you know, it's kind of unfair. The first installment of Elm Street will always be encrusted in my mind as, you know, a number one. Like I said, and it's always been, you know, I know I've said it before, but the difference, the originality, the glove, the way the story was, the way, I mean, Krueger, the bad guy, was on screen. And how long was the original movie? 90 minutes, we'll say?
Something like that, yeah.
7 minutes he was on screen. Yeah. And he made that kind of lasting impression on everybody, the youth of that time, and even nowadays. Yeah. I mean, look at all the merchandise and everything, but that doesn't make a difference. But yeah, I mean, that's what, you know, still in my mind about just, you know, seeing him, you know, running down the alley, or the arms stretched out. And it was, like I said, it was fresh. I mean, so yeah, Elm Street 1 would, you know, still to this day, to me, is engraved in my mind as the pinnacle. You know.
Oh, that's probably why you picked it then, huh?
You know, I mean, you can't really say too much about Friday the 13th, the first one, because...
That's why I always say Friday the 13th
Well, it was
1.2.
It was his
2.0 was part 2. You know,
It was his mommy. I mean,
Yeah.
and don't get me wrong. I'm not saying anything. Kane Hodder, don't hurt me. I'm not saying anything about Jason, but we don't get Jason until number 2.
Yeah.
And so you can't. I mean, yeah, it was. Thinking back about it now, like Friday the 13th. Okay, it was just a bunch of kids at a camp getting killed. I mean, love the movie. Don't get me wrong, but a little bit boring.
Yeah, I understand.
Still watching to this day.
I just watched it last week.
Yeah, same here.
Just had it.
Halloween, that's why I put Michael at number 2.
Mm-hmm.
Because if Freddy is up here at the point, Michael is completely 180 degrees out of whack with him. Not because he's inferior, but it's completely and utterly different. Michael, slow, methodic, doesn't talk, stalks. I mean, granted, Michael can drive, all that stuff, but
Yeah.
it's a different kind of movie. And for some reason, I don't know why, Michael is number 2, as far as I'm concerned. Not saying anything bad about Michael, but it's a different kind of slasher / stalking, murderer, whatever you want to call it, psychopath. But yeah, I mean,
I think the story, like the actual story of Halloween, became way more complex than any other series, I would say.
yeah, it really did.
Friday the 13th, straight cut and dry. No matter what they're doing,
Yep.
it's Jason killing people in the woods. So
Yep.
aside from Manhattan, which is only 10 minutes anyway. But
Yeah,
for Nightmare, I don't even know if the sequels counted towards the original until you really got to part 3, because part 2 is pretty much its own movie.
yeah.
And then when they bring Nancy back and they talk about Hypnosil, and then that becomes the
Yeah.
series. You know,
And that's another thing too. I mean, even through all, like you said, the Hypnosil. I mean,
Yeah.
even that was a main plot point in Freddy versus Jason.
yeah, it
But
was.
they kind of kept everything.
Yeah.
And Elm Street 3, like you said, Elm Street 3 and 4. You had the Dream Warriors, the Dream Child, the Dream Master. Everything had to worry. Was focused around the dream world.
Yeah.
And this guy that controlled it.
Definitely a more imaginative series, I would say.
Yeah, it really was. And I mean, and you could go anywhere with the dream world.
Yeah.
Anywhere. I mean,
Which is smart for them because they can write the craziest shit and it be okay.
yeah.
What he does is what no other killer can do because he's the only one that's legitimately supernatural powers.
Whenever you're bad enough, I mean, you're 185 pounds and you're controlling, the hockey mask freak and his dreams and stuff. Yeah, you're a badass.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned.
Oh, that's funny.
One thing. Let me check something here real quick. The funny thing is, Jimmy, I always worry about babbling.
Really?
Oh, yeah, and like sounding incoherent. So sometimes I get a little nervous.
Not worried about
I'll
it.
try to start on a point, and then all of a sudden, I'll be going straight as a grizzly's dick, and then all of a sudden, I'll make a right-hand turn. Nope, that should be edited out.
It'll be okay.
But yeah, I mean, Elm Street to me was probably the biggest thing about me getting into horror movies.
Yeah.
And then it was, okay, let's, find out everything about Freddy Krueger, how they did this, how they did that, whatever. That's where Fangoria came in. Oh, look, there's a hockey mask guy. Oh, look, I know who Michael Myers is. I started going into Michael Myers, and then I started going into that whole 80s slang. I mean, even getting into the Hellraisers, which...
That's a whole separate thing.
Yeah.
I think Hellraiser and Pinhead, they have their own market. Like, there's just...
Yeah, they do. I mean, that's...
I don't consider him in the same league as the other slashers.
He's not really a slasher. He's
No.
more so like a,
That's definitely more demonic movies than a slasher movie.
And
So.
I really didn't enjoy those. I love the
They're
books.
just so different. Yeah, they're
Yeah,
just
I love
different.
the books, but but yeah, Elm Street was probably the whole reason why I got into it. The whole reason why I made the front yard look like a cemetery and scared the hell out of you kids.
Well, I do today.
And I'm starting to get back into it too.
Yeah.
I'm sure you saw.
I think I do okay with my Dollar General decorations.
I think you do fine too. Hey man, it's all up. Well, looking behind you. Anyways, but yeah, I mean, that's it's where I wanted to go. I mean, how many kids, if my dad was alive today, Dad, I need you to do me a favor. I need you to cut a half moon out of this plastic machete. Well, for what? Well, go ahead and I'll show you. You take it and you slap it on your arm. It looks like the machete's buried halfway through your arm. And you go roll it back and forth. Where'd you learn how to do that? Oh, I read it over here. And, there's this guy up in Pittsburgh named Tom Savini. Grrr. Anyway, but he does this and that. And I really want to learn how to do this. And it's kind of neat. And then I found out how much it would cost to go to this. And I went, well, But, yeah, it was, the effect that got me the most from Elm Street, the original Elm Street, that caused me to want to start looking at makeup was the whole thing with the arms. Oh my God, what did they do today? And it was two guys on fishing poles and everything. It was the simplest effects, but.
And you're looking at it today, it was comical, but
yeah,
it was cool as shit back then.
Absolutely. I mean, but the effects back, you watch some movies from the 80s and everything, the effects are really dated. And
I'll take practical over CGI any day.
Well, you just took the words out of my mouth.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. No, but everybody can look at them. I mean, and you knew this was this. Even if you watch the original Star Wars, everything still looks good because everything was practical. No matter how cheap it was, or no matter what they used. Okay. So, you got the guy stretching his arms out 16 feet on either side. So we're going to use, whatever. In this day and age, I need pool noodles. I need this. I need two guys with fishing lines and, fake rubber hands to make it. Depending on how far back it is, the camera, whatever. That's why they did the whole, they show the arms going out. And then here's his, the glove on the right hand of the wall. They did a close-up of it like it's scraping and doing all that stuff. And it was how they did it, and it was brilliant. It was, completely brilliant.
I agree. A lot of what they did was ahead of their time, especially the turning room.
The oatmeal steps, or whatever it was.
You want to call it, pancake mix.
Pancake mix, oatmeal mix. Whoever can remember what.
It's amazing, too, is that why would they remember? Like, when you're making something, you just want they were there to do a job and move on. And how many movies they've made until then, they're probably, I don't know what I did back then. To us, it's a big deal, but to them, they're like, I just did it,
Okay, last question.
Yes.
End of the movie.
End of the movie.
Nancy has her whole heroin,
sledgehammer to the stomach.
Sledgehammer. Oh, no, we're even talking past the sledgehammer.
Okay, they're in the room.
The god-awful skeleton goes down through that's the only effect that looks like crap. I'm sorry.
There's another one.
Well.
We don't. You wanted to bring up.
Wait a minute. We're getting to it. Don't put the cart in the back of the horse. However that goes. Anyways, no, but, the skeleton goes down. He comes up, which is one of the coolest scenes in the world. He pops up out of there, and the blood and the claw, and her and they have their little interaction. He dives in and she opens the door and it's daylight out and we're talking to Nancy's mom, and Nancy and the kids drive up and she's not drinking anymore, okay, and they get into the caddy and the convertible hood comes up. Oh no, it's red and green striped, and and they drive off, and that god awful inflatable fuck doll that's dressed up like the actress that gets pulled through the window.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, I think they spent all their money on Freddy's makeup to do that. I mean, that's the only one of the two laughable ones, and but the thing is. Once again, that's what makes Elm Street memorable. Because it's just god-awful.
It's so bad. It's so fucking bad.
It is, oh, God, is it bad.
Your legs is
they just go, I mean, she's sitting there, she looks like one of those inflatable dolls that you get at, like, the adult bookstore with the angel with the mouth open.
Oh, we've all seen them in person.
Well, yeah, that's true. Well, my question to you is, besides that god-awful, effect there and everything, do you think at the end, is that the real world or is that the dream world?
I honestly thought
Because Glenn's
Glenn's
alive, Tina's alive, Rod's alive.
I always looked at it as a dream world because of what was happening. I don't think that was a real world at all. I think Nancy was dreaming it.
I just, once again, it's just an opinion. I always thought it was the dream world too, because as we learned, I mean, I didn't know what it was 100% at the time of watching it, but as we learned, there's the red and green. Aha! So
plus they weren't controlling the sun when the roof came down.
Yeah, exactly. So and
then the kids are dancing.
Yeah, Freddy was in control of the car, and then of course he pops out and grabs the inflatable woman, and pulls her through. Oh God, that's just. I mean, that's actually laughable.
Fade to black.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, as a movie itself, I give it an 8 out of 10. What about you?
I give it an 8 out of 10.
8? Good?
I don't want,
considering it's your favorite,
it's my favorite, but let's not be, too...
Call it what it is.
Yeah, it's, I wouldn't go any higher than an 8. I mean, if I would say, oh, absolutely, 10 out of 10, well, I'm being biased.
Yeah, exactly.
8 out of 10 sounds good to me. All right.
Well, anyway, that's probably going to wrap it up. I think I loved it.
Awesome.
Loved it. I actually only did one show on this movie before, and that was with my old podcast, and these are completely different, which is cool. So,
can't wait to do Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge.
Yes, we're looking for do a whole series on this, so yeah, that's the next one.
Okay.
We'll go in order with it. And
why not?
Ending with...
Oh, don't say it. Well,
the one that just started streaming on Netflix if you want to waste 90 minutes of your life.
Oh, I don't know about that one. See, we'll go all the way through. I mean, yes, we'll do that god-awful Wes Craven's A New Nightmare.
Oh, we're gonna have some... We're gonna... See, that is actually...
Don't say it. I'll throw this microphone at you.
Okay, we'll see when we get there.
Yeah.
Part 7.
I mean, we gonna actually include Freddy versus Jason. I mean, it's not really an Elm Street movie. But
I think when you talk about both series, they each get an installment for that movie.
I would hope so.
Yeah. Anytime I talk about any series, any one of them, I say they each have Freddy versus Jason in it.
Good. I agree with you on that.
So even though I am not a fan, I do consider it in the series. Yes.
You don't consider? You're not a fan?
Freddy vs. Jason?
Oh my God!
Oh,
boy,
man.
We got to have a talk after you turn that microphone off.
Yep. Well, anyway, yes, this has been the first episode of Slashcast, and next episode with Sean will be Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2,
Freddy's Revenge,
and yeah. Other than that, nothing else to talk about. So, thank you, Mr. Sean.
Thank you, Mr. Jim.
And until next time.
Absolutely, man.
All right. See you later.
Bye-bye.